introduce him.
Kevin Olson.
Hi, Kevin. This is Kevin Olson from PSI, and he's here to do the training video for the tank shark for the 1630 West Reservoir project. Unfortunately, a couple people from Reclaim Water. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, okay. Go ahead and take it.
All right. Anyway, like he said, I'm Kevin Olson from Process Solutions. We're actually out of Campbell, California, up north. Basically, what we're putting in here is your guys' tank shark for your reservoir. It's basically a pretty simple system that we have here. What we have going on, basically, coming off your guys' reservoir, we have two 2-inch lines. You have a feed line off your guys' reservoir coming to the inlet of your guys' pump. Coming off of the outlet line, you go to a 2-inch ball valve all the way to the top of your guys' tank, which actually goes down into 2 different hatches on the top. So basically what we're doing is taking that water, boosting pressure up, and using that to circulate your reservoir. The motor you have here and the pump, the motor is a 240 volt motor. Your pump is designed to output about 111 gallons per minute. Basically that's getting split 2 different ways. You have 2 tank shark platforms down in the bottom of your reservoir. Each one of those will basically get about 50 gallons per minute for each of them. So that's basically what we're using to circulate the water inside your reservoir. As far as maintenance on this pump, it's pretty basic. What you have off of your flanges down here, you got 2 gaskets. If you guys find leaks somewhere in the future, being that this is outdoors in the elements, you guys might find that periodically you might have to swap out your guys' flange material. The other maintenance that you have on this periodically is to grease the bearings. Inside, what you would do to do it basically is go ahead and isolate your power, go ahead and stop the motor. You can pull off these plate covers, there's one on each side, and inside there's actually a grease attachment when you use a grease gun to actually grease your bearings on it.
Just like on a car?
Yep, exactly. Pretty straightforward. On the other side here, it actually shows you the type of grease that they're using. There's a little plate on the side, and it says basically to get it from the manufacturer.
Right.
So once you guys are ready to do that, you can contact them and get the grease, or get it through us. But beyond that, it's pretty much maintenance free. Beyond that, it's designed to pretty much run continuously, 24 hours a day, unless you guys either want to stop circulating or you got some sort of maintenance procedure you guys are doing on your tank. So there's kind of a minimum requirement of water inside that tank to operate this thing. If we get below the inlet valve, it's going to start drawing in air, and you're going to basically starve the pump and
Yeah,
stop
you don't want
circulating.
that. Yeah, and the minimum level is going to be above this, like 3+.
That would be, minimum. Anything below that, you're going to airlock. And even at that low, our tank sharks, if you look in the manual, there's a picture of it here, but the tank shark sits so high, and we're pushing so much pressure through those high pressure nozzles that there's only a few inches above them. It's going to, it's still going to have that stream of water shooting out. So it's going to be kind of spraying around your tank. So you want to make sure you have at least a little bit of water above the head of those nozzles. Really, the only other maintenance required on this system, beyond what I spoke about on the motor and pump, is going to be your nozzles. Like I said before, you have 2 hatches on top of that tank. Each hatch has the tank shark lowered to the bottom. It's basically a big round stainless steel platform that sits all the way to the bottom of your tank. And we have an 1.5-inch braided tube that goes all the way down to the bottom that shoots up the stainless steel shaft, and it splits 2 different ways to 2 45-degree high pressure nozzles. What we do is put those in a certain position where it basically creates like a gravitation, like a flow mix inside your tank. The size of your tank, we're basically doing it in 2 spots. So as that's happening, it's mixing your tank, getting rid of the stratification and all the issues you have with that. As far as those maintenance, really all you have to do is periodically check the nozzles and make sure they're not getting built up with calcium or any debris that can build up in the tank. Usually, since we're not actually doing chemical injection on this one, you don't have to worry about it as much. If you're pushing chlorine right at the nozzles, you can get calcium build up a little faster. You want to check it periodically, a bit more.
or nylon type?
You can do either one. I mean, they're pretty. It's not a real soft. It's pretty hard material, so either one would be fine. You know, the nylon might be a little easier on it, but overall, you don't really need to brush it very hard anyway. So either way, I don't think it's going to matter that much.
Just enough to clean the opening.
Yeah, and you can get a little, you know, some little rod or something just to shove down the nozzle, make sure there's nothing obstructed inside there or something. But overall, just make sure it looks clear and clean. But I don't think you're going to have much of an issue here, being that we're not doing any injection.
Now, pulling it up, does it require a crane of some sort?
You can do it two ways, with some sort of hoist like that, or physically doing it. I usually do it myself. I'd recommend doing it with at least one other person, especially if you got to get on top of your tank. And that might depend on what your guys' safety, you know, protocols are here. But I'd at least recommend having another person when you're doing it. That way, someone can kind of pull back the tubing and stuff while someone's pulling it up. If you wanted to make it easy, you can do something like that with a winch or something like that, but you'd have to have it set up a certain way to do it. That's not something that's set up right now on it, but some people can kind of rig up a little device or a little tripod with a hoist on it or a winch, something you could do that, but you might find out as you guys do it what's acceptable for you and what's not.
Do you know what the weight is offhand?
You know what, I don't off the top of my head. If I had to guess, it's probably at least 50 pounds or more.
Okay, that's
So
not
it's
so bad.
You know, once you're pulling it through the water, it's not too bad. But once you get it out, you know, it's fairly heavy. So, and the cable's fairly thin. So you know, get some gloves, and you know, it takes a little bit of muscle.
So dropping it back in, you just need to kind of get it close to where it was before. That's the general idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where your hatches are located up there. I haven't seen them yet. If they're centered or if they're off to the side or not. But
Off to the side from the center line. So on this side, it's on the east side of the line. On the north side, it's more like the west side of the line.
So what you want to do is, if anything, just try to get them towards the center the best you can. But with the amount of flow we're putting through them, it's still going to circulate the tank, no matter, even if it was at the very edge.
Well, they put them about 6 feet from the edge there, Adam?
6 to 8 feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you find that when you're dropping it, it's trying to feed to the edge, it's not going to matter. But if you can try to just shimmy it to where it's either straight down or the best you can to get it closer to the
How
center.
about the nozzles? Do they need to be aiming a certain direction when you drop them in?
No. So once they're already adjusted when they're in there, they're basically coming off of basically a stainless steel T into a 45, and you can adjust them either way. So they're already adjusted. So it doesn't matter what position it is when it's down there, as long as those nozzles are adjusted the way they were to begin with. So, like I said, once you pull it up, you don't need to readjust the nozzles. All you need to do is just slide it right back down, make sure that braided tubing doesn't kink when you're doing it, and do your best just to try to keep it straight down, or the best you can to the center. But yeah, it doesn't matter which way the nozzles are facing, as long as they're in the same position on that T as they started.
Well,
So
and that was my other question, because the hatch is roughly 6 to 8 feet from the edge. So but you're saying if you want to throw the shark, maybe more towards the middle of the edge.
you don't have to worry about it so much as that. If you had to choose between the edge or the more to the middle, you'd try to choose the middle if you could.
Okay.
But with the both of them, they're going to create so much flow and circulation. They're basically going to feed off each other, and over a period of time, you're going to see agitation on top of the water, and it's going to get a complete mix in your reservoir. So those nozzles are positioned in a certain way. It doesn't matter which way the whole shark sits, as long as those nozzles are in the right position. So really, you don't have to worry about that so much. Just for the most part, drop it straight down, and then once everything's settled down, make sure it's settled flat on the bottom of the reservoir. Usually, you can tell that once you turn the motor off. You can usually see to the bottom pretty good. So once it sits flat, then you go ahead and make sure your tubing's all unkinked and laid out, and then just go ahead and attach your cable back to the ladder. That way you don't drop your connection into the reservoir.
So if one of the nozzles like aiming towards the wall,
I mean, it would still do its circulation, but I mean, if you could see down there good enough, you would probably try to get it to where it's not shooting right at the wall.
Okay.
Like I said, by the time it all equals and mixes, it's going to do it either way. But yeah, if you can try to adjust it, try to get it to where it's not shooting right at the wall if you can. So.
And then how? Did you say every 6 months we grease the bearings on that?
I would say probably one annually. I don't think it
okay,
Yeah, I don't think. It just says periodically. It doesn't give you an exact date.
I saw one here for the motor of the fan. I don't know if that's right there. We want to grease that too, or is that just a set?
You know, I believe that's just. I don't think that's for the fan grease. I believe the only spots you're going to need to do it is
yeah,
down
I
there.
saw that, and I thought, well, is that something?
The only other thing you have is this motor has a thermal protection on it if it overheats, and it does run warm. Actually, it runs pretty hot. So, but it's designed to do that. What will happen is if it reaches a certain temperature, it will shut itself down in that thermal protection. What you want to do is go isolate your power, turn off your disconnect, let the motor cool, and there's actually a reset button right here on top. That'll clear the thermal if it's cooled down below the rating of it.
Yeah, because it's got an internal thermometer.
Yeah, you got to let it cool down. So you don't want to leave it run, and you always want to turn off the power, let it cool, push that if it's below the temperature, it'll clear that thermal protection. Then you can go ahead and kick on your disconnect. The only valves you got feeding this are off of your inlet and your outlet. So you never want to run this motor with your inlet valve off, or you're going to ruin something. So if you ever got to do any sort of valve adjustments, go ahead and make sure you turn off your motor just to play it safe. The only other last two things there really is on this pump, ideally I don't think you're going to have to use it, but you have two little bleeder sides on this one. You have one here and one there. If you find this thing gets airlocked, you can actually loosen those up and it'll actually bleed the air out. That's a way you can prime this motor. Being that it's so low, you're always going to have head pressure on this, so unless you really drain your tank, I don't really see you guys having to mess with that a whole lot. But like I said, there's one here and one there, just a way to prime your pump. You just loosen it up until you get a good steady stream of water out of it on each side, tighten it back up, and you're good to go. And you can do that while it's running if you want to, or you can do it with it off with just the head pressure, which would probably be the better way to do it, really.
And I guess the control strategy for this is it kind of regulates itself. It comes on and off on its own. So it's when there's. Can you go over what the pressures are and how that works?
So basically, it's all manual. There's nothing controlling this thing when it starts and stops, except you guys physically turning the power off or turning it on. So you guys have a disconnect over there by your electrical panel. When that thing's on, this thing is running 24/7 forever until you guys actually power it down. So it's constantly
regulated by the pressure. Okay.
No, there's ways to set it up. You know, there's ways you could control it off the level and stuff like that. What we have here, we're not doing that. It's not something that you can do it. It's just with your guys' setup here, it's a continuous circulation. So as you guys are using water and filling it back up, it's circulating the whole entire time, unless you guys physically take it off. So basically what we're trying to do is just get a constant mix inside your guys' tank. Sometimes when you're not mixing, you can get different levels of temperature and stagnation, stratification, all that kind of stuff, and that just keeps you a good, even mix throughout your whole tank. And then if you are injecting chemical, it gives you a more even dispersion of all those chemicals. But overall here, it just keeps you everything real mixed and equal throughout all layers of the tank, basically. So that's basically all we're trying to do here, is make sure everything's mixed and equal from the top to the bottom of your tank. That way you don't have hot pockets for chemicals, or hotter up top and lower cool temperatures in the bottom. Keeps everything real even, and then it makes it easier to administer chemicals if you guys are ever to do that. So I believe on this one, in the Shark, there is 2 injection nozzles down there, I believe, for future use. So unless they didn't put them in and I'm not aware of it, usually there's 2 PVC pipes on each side of it with injection nozzles. Normally when you inject chemicals, we'll inject it right into that circulation nozzle, and it gives it a good mix throughout your tank. So, but on that right now, where those aren't being used, and we're just using the circulation side of things. So that's the idea, is that both of those are offset, creating basically a swirl effect throughout your tank. Combined with them both, gets a complete mix of your tank, and we're doing that 24/7. So it's a pretty simple design. design on what we're doing, but it does make a big difference in your tank quality.
How readily available are spare parts if there was a breakdown of some sort? What do you stock in Temecula?
Well, I don't have anything stocked in Temecula as far as these pumps. They'd be stocked out of our Campbell office. So, you know, anything that goes out, as long as it's in stock, they will overnight for you guys. But I don't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. There's a lot of different size motors and different size pumps. So at this point, I don't know exactly what the inventory is, but it would be out of our Campbell office. So if you guys do have warranty issues or whatever, you guys, I'll be the local guy for you guys. So you can get a hold of me. We'll be out within 24 hours to take a look at what's going on. And if it is a case of a bad motor, bad pump or something, they would overnight that with stock out of Campbell, or if they were out from the manufacturer. So, but basically, that's really pretty much beyond the nozzles. This is really the main thing that you could have issues with as far as that goes. But we've had these in for a while, and they pretty much just run, and we haven't had any issues with them all. They're pretty solid. So, like I said, we would, if that was something that went out and we had it in stock, we would overnight that to you. And I'd be swapping it out for you.
The same with the nozzles.
Yep.
And
You
the
guys
actual-
have your pump, plumbing, the nozzles, tank sharks. You guys have a 3-year warranty on it. So if anything's going haywire or looks out of the ordinary for you, you know, you guys got a 3-year warranty. Since you guys don't have everybody here today, you know, if you guys got questions down the road or something, I'll leave a card with you. You guys can contact us either through our office in Campbell or through me direct. But yeah, 3-year warranty on it. So you guys got a while before you guys will be out of warranty. So like I said, anything within that warranty will, as long as it's within stock, we should be out within 24 hours to have you back up and running.
Now, I was going to ask if we could turn on here just so they get an idea of what it sounds like, because I'm thinking, well, if we turn on it, this is how it should sound. Things to look for, well, if it starts shimmying or we hear knocking, that kind of a thing. But also I want to ask you on the pipe. I noticed, I don't know, is that sunlight resistant, or is that just regular, or does it matter? You guys had a
It's PVC. It's going to discolor a little bit, but it's rated for
But it's pretty
outdoors
stout?
and sun. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were wondering about
It's
that.
not. I forget the UV rating on it, but yeah, it's rated for outdoors. But it doesn't mean over time the sun's not gonna cook it a little bit.
Yeah, it's
you know?
probably pretty hot around here.
It'll happen eventually, but it doesn't mean that structurally it's bad. It just means it's getting sunburned basically. So most stuff outdoors is going to have some sort of sun damage on it. But it'll structure-wise, it'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna turn it on.
Do you want me to kick it on? You could videotape it.
Pretty smooth. The engine gets pretty hot though. You don't want to touch it.
It's definitely a warm motor. I mean, you can't keep your hand on it for a whole lot, but it's also going 100 degrees out. So, but like I said, if it reaches its thermal overload, it's going to shut itself down before it goes out of range on that. So if you find that you come here and the disconnect's on and this thing's not running, it could be in that thermal overload. And that's, you can either give us a call, we can walk you through it, or we can try to do that power down scenario.
Well, okay, so say we open up the gates or whatever and we notice it's off. First thing we should do is probably shut off the power, or not worry about it.
First thing I would do if you come here and this thing's not running is just check and make sure the power is on.
Right, okay.
If the power is on and it's not running, then something's wrong.
Right.
Either it's not getting power, you got some blown fuses in your disconnect, or the disconnect was off. You know, if you came here and the disconnect's off, obviously there's no power to it, then you kick that on.
Or it's overloaded.
If you find the disconnect's on, it could be overloaded. So that's what you would do is power down your disconnect, maybe give it a couple hours to cool off, push your reset button, and then go ahead and apply your power back on and see if that did it. If that didn't do it, then like I said, it could be a blown fuse or something. You guys have to get your electrician out here to check those fuses and see if you have power, check it there, or check it actually at the motor. But odds are if you got power at your disconnect, you should be having power here. But if you find there's power there, power here and it's not resetting, we could have a, there could be some damage to your motor or something. But overall, of your basic checks on that would either be your disconnect power or the thermal switch. So I don't usually see that thermal happen very often, so it's not something you should be seeing that often. If you do, there could be some other issues or something going on. But and then beyond that, just periodic check on this thing. Which basically, make sure your valves are in the open position, and if they wanted to, you could check your hatches and check for movement in your tank if you wanted to, because there's really no flow meter or anything telling you an exact flow. If you had some sort of impeller damage or something, this thing could be running, but maybe it's not output its full gallons per minute, So usually, if you get up and look inside the top of that reservoir, you're not going to see big waves going around, but you should see some sort of agitation on your tank.
You can see kind of
Yeah, nothing major, but something. Usually with no flow and super stiff.
Yeah.
So you'll see a little bit of agitation going on depending on how full your guys' reservoir is. So otherwise, there's really no way to tell exactly how much is going in there without putting some sort of flow meter on it or something.
And I noticed they, from up there, I don't know if you've seen this, John or anyone else, but you have the hard pipe right here.
Yep.
The hard pipe goes up and it goes to a T and it goes out. And then once it goes into the tank down in there, there's a rubber tubing that when you turn on the pressure, it expands. Obviously, that's how you get the water. So it's not. What I'm saying is that the tubing that goes in the tank isn't always pressurized. It's only pressurized when you turn this on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So otherwise, you're just the only thing going through there is head pressure, which wouldn't be enough to overcome what's at the bottom of the tank. So yeah, with it off, you could. Once you pull that up, you're not going to have any pressure or any water shooting at you.
And so in other words, it's like a rubber tube hose clamps on it. So periodically, if we're not getting any kind of movement, we'll check the connections.
Yep.
To the.
You could have a hole in the line, or it blew off, something like
something
clamp
like
broke. You could have a few different scenarios.
That's the other thing. Maybe.
Yeah, you could. Well, once you do up and check your nozzles, that'd probably be, like you said, a good recommendation. If you're already up there, just recheck your clamps, make sure everything's tight. Since you already got it up, it's something simple to do. Make sure everything looks like, everything looks good and snug, and then you can drop it back down. If you ever have to do any maintenance, like I said, like the gaskets or something, you would want to, even if you just shut your inlet line here and started doing it, as soon as you pull that off, it could create basically a whole suction and start basically siphoning out of your reservoir. So what you'd want to do if you did maintenance, though, is just make sure you shut off your outlet and your inlet. Basically, once you open that, it's going to create a siphon.
Yeah, and then you have all that air.
Yeah. So it's good if you just shut that. You're isolated. Put your power off, and then you can completely access your motor and pumps. Okay. So beyond that, that's pretty much it. There's really not a whole lot of everyday maintenance on this thing. Just periodic checks and. Like I said, maybe annually grease the bearings on it, and annually. I mean, you guys, just because I say annually doesn't mean you have to wait that long. You can do it early or whatever you guys come to conclusion. But I would recommend at least annually to check those.
And I guess I don't know if you gave Pacific Tank a couple of those tubes for grease yet, but I mean,
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get them.
I don't think I have any on that. I can. If you look right down, basically off of this one here, it's basically called Polyrex EM grease. This is where it shows. So it says grease at factory. That's where it was greased at. It says re-grease periodically with grease compatible with that supplied by the factory, which is Polyrex EM grease. So if you guys forget it, states it right here. Yeah, and you can get a hold of it, and they can get a hold of you, or you can get a hold of us, and we can find it for you.
Okay.
But basically, this is the place. Type of compression fitting in there to seal the shaft from that fan to keep all the rain out. And it's, I'm assuming that's some sort of plastic. It's not a metallic fan blade on it, so it's not going to get the corrosion you would on anything else. So it's actually
a good idea.
Yeah, so just make sure you know, some people are sitting here resting on it.
Right, you don't want to lean
Yeah,
on
if
that.
you push
or-
on this, you can end up hitting the fan blade and damaging it that way. So just you know, make sure people aren't doing too much to it. It should be fine. But yeah, it's all rated for outdoors, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Okay.
So they're pretty bulletproof
Yeah.
pumps. We've had good luck with them. So beyond that, that's pretty much about it. You got if you get confused on which one's your inlet or outlet, you do have an arrow going here which shows you your directional flow. So if you just look at that, you can kind of follow your lines and tell what your inlet and outlet is and whatnot. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward.
And I guess they're air cooled, so there's no oil.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Just for the bearings,
Just for the
grease, and all
grease,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty maintenance free for the most part. So you know, 90% of the time, you guys aren't going to be doing anything to it. You know. So periodically, once a year, you can inspect those, grease, and you're good to go the rest of the year. So it's designed to be pretty